Greetings to you, people of the sun. This is Brother Salih once again. Well, I'm not in Dunley Park this time. I'm at my house across the street from the park, right? But once again, I'm coming to you from the Zep Tepi Institute to just talk a little bit about purpose. Life for everyone is a pretty major struggle, right? Everybody has a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of really difficult times. I don't really care whether you're measured as a person being successful or one that has no measurement of success in terms of how the society views you, right? But everybody struggles, and it just seems that for me, purpose, when one finds their purpose, right, it is only then, and actually they can get engaged in that purpose, that some kind of feeling of fulfillment can actually be had. My history is that I'm one that has spent a great deal of time in prison. I had drug problems. I was completely antisocial. And, I had a lot of attitude problems that came from the racial problems that happened in the 60s, because I was part of the population that was bused to white schools, right? And when we first got out there, they met us with signs, about niggas and all that kind of stuff, right? And we had all kinds of struggles with teachers. And just around the same time, my father died, and I was informed, or at least I believed at that time, that he was part of the Tuskegee experiment cases, where they took some Air Force personnel, blacks, and gave them a rare form of syphilis, and then watched how it was a cancer study, right? So I was emotionally unstable coming up in the most formative years. My father died when I was 11. And as a result, right, I had a lot of trouble in school, right? At first, though, in my real young years, the first, second, third, all the way up to about the 5th grade, I was an A student in school, right? A teacher's pet, a guy that the bullies was trying to get all the time, right? Because I had favor with teachers and whatever, right? And I can remember when all that changed after my father died, right? And I can remember the first time I struck out in violence against somebody else, right? And when they first said, when I bust this joker in the head with a brick, and they said, "Oh shit, he's crazy." And I remember saying to my mom, "That's right, I'm crazy, and I will kill you." And that was my attitude, and that's kind of what I projected. And for a long time, I went around and I was violent with weapons and taking stuff from people and doing those kinds of things, right? But, consequently, I ended up doing close to 25 years in prison because of my behavior. But even in all that struggle, there is some purpose. And what I found was that, for me, I learned the underside of society. I've come to understand it. And then after being in prison, when I started having the time to study and research and look into things more deeply, I began to answer some of my questions that I had about why I behaved in the way I did, right? So consequently, I've written a couple books. I got one book called the Willie Lynch Factor, right? And it really takes the Willie Lynch papers and shows how the things that were prescribed on how to effectively make slaves, how they still carry on in some of the subcultural trends and behaviors that exist in our community, and particularly about somatic reflex, about how we react to things based on our past experience without even thinking. It's our automatic response, our automatic thought process, and an automatic emotional response, right? So as a result, I ended up going into prison treatment. I went into a treatment program. It was a University of Delaware research project called the Key Program. And I was part of the group of pioneers that went over and opened another University of Delaware program called the CREST Outreach Program, right? But in that, I studied therapeutic communities, and I studied the different modalities of treatment that were popular at the time, right? And it really gave me a lot of insight. And what happened was I ended up becoming real effective at reaching brothers in prison, because of course I was one of them, right? So I worked in New Jersey, I worked in Pennsylvania, and I worked for several different big companies that ran these programs, right? And it introduced me to a great deal of information. At the same time, I went back to school. I got my bachelor's and my master's degree, right? And I focused on group dynamics and how groups form and you know, how they operate and that kind of thing, right? Purpose came out of that, you know what I'm saying? And I believe that I know something about it now. And I believe that I have actually developed something called self-concept restructuring, which really, I was also a student of religion and spiritual systems, right? And I went all the way back. I was studying the ancient Egyptian system. That's one of the things I went back to really study. And what I found out was they knew how to change the ideal of the person has about themselves within the subconscious of the person. And that was how they developed civilization. It helped me get an understanding of what civilization is. That the act of civilization, or the act of being civilized, is to bring into control all of your lower passions and energies and somatic reflexes. So, in every struggle, I wanted to put this video out today because everybody on this planet has a purpose. Everybody, right? And part of the satisfaction and fulfillment of life is to find that purpose. Now, right now, I'm in a struggle. I got involved in the sale of cars. I got a small wholesale used car business. That's what I got involved in, right? But it's contrary to what it is that I was really my purpose and what I'm supposed to be doing. So now I'm struggling with how to break free from the situation, you know, making your bills and paying for your things that you got to have in life, and how to make your actual purpose be your livelihood. Now, I didn't put little things out there online and showing that I got like 3 books that are self-published, and I haven't done anything with them. And one of the reasons is because of that struggle that it takes to actually step out there and to completely walk in purpose. So I wanted to put this out today first to help myself because, you know, I'm struggling with this question, right? But also to tell other people, and I'm not going to try to tell you anything is easy because it is all struggle. And it's he who, you know, who is worthy. He's the one that gets the crown, right? And this struggle of trying to find your purpose, everybody is going to face it. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to actually have an idea what mine is. Some people go through life without ever finding because they're constantly scrambling to try to make ends meet, particularly us that are of the oppressed communities, right? But the struggle to overcome and define purpose. And what I want to say to you out there today is, if you got a sense of your purpose, listen, go for it. Push past all the stuff and go for it. That's what I'm trying to do right now. And I want to be a cheerleader to anybody else who's struggling with the same thing, right? My purpose is to teach about what civilization actually means in terms of the development of the brain, in terms of bringing into play aspects of your brain that kind of dormant, you know, and our ancestors understood much more about it than we do now. So whatever your purpose is, you got to try to go for it, you know what I mean? Because you will be much better off. When I worked in prison and ran treatment programs, I was clinical supervisor running programs, and I was out running groups and doing seminars and working with people every day, particularly people that was downtrodden, destroyed by society, right? Man, it wasn't like work. I could speak to a group for several hours and not even be tired, and the time would go past so fast that I wouldn't even recognize, you know, it'd be like, wow, is it done? Is the time over? Yeah, it is, right? So when you go into your purpose, you'll find that that thing that is your natural thing to do, it's not work for you. It's actually satisfying and fulfilling, right? And I'm telling you, that feeling, I've had it to a certain extent, but I was still working for someone else, right? I want to have it now when I'm actually the person who is doing the directing and establishing and constructing and building. So this is Brother Salih from the Zep Tepi Institute. The Zep Tepi Institute is all about the development of a human being. And, you know, that's the course that I'm on, and that's what I find to be my purpose. Find yours and get with it. Brother Salih, thank you for listening. Peace be with you.